Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the podcast. My name is Alex Furman, and you are listening, watching The Alex Furman Show, a sports podcast. First and foremost, I'm sorry. I think I have to apologize, right? I haven't podcasted or pushed anything out or even told people that I was still alive for the past couple of months. And to be honest with you, work's been kind of crazy. So for those who don't know, I've obviously this is not my full-time gig. I have a 9 to 5, and during the last quarter of the year, we call Q4, right? It's the busiest time of the year for my specific industry. So just so you know, that's why I haven't been able to podcast. I've just been so gosh darn busy working, doing all this other stuff. Also, I have she just turned 11 months old today. I have an 11-month-old, and she takes up quite a lot of time. So that's kind of the reason why I haven't been podcasting. But my God, there's been so much stuff going on. It's absolutely insane in the world of sports, more importantly, in the world of college football. We just got done with all of the conference championships, and a huge congratulations to everyone who won the conference championships. And now we're looking at the first couple of rounds of the college football playoff bracket, along with the bowl games, and who's going to be participating in their bowl games. And there's a lot of controversy going on right now, and that's exactly what I want to be talking about. As always, we got our friend Blackburn here, and as a matter of fact, he just joined. Let's let him in. Yo, Blackburn, what's going on, my man?
Man, I'm so excited we could link up again and make this happen. I love talking football with you, whether it be on a podcast or just at a buddy's house or whatever it is. That's totally fine. Let's talk some football. Let's get into it. I love it. So,
Let's do it. Let's do it. Blackburn, I love seeing your beautiful face. I really do.
wow.
And the fact that
Wow.
like you work in a different state now, you're 8 hours away. It breaks my heart. I don't get to see you as much anymore. But every time we get to do something like this, it warms me up a little bit inside. The nice warm fuzzy feeling that you get. Like when you're on your first date and you get like the little butterflies, holding their hand. That's the feeling that I get every time I
Well,
get the podcast
I'm
with you.
glad that I hold that in your heart, like that you hold me that close. And really, it's always special when we can link up and do anything, no matter where we are, right? But it just takes a couple extra steps to get where we are right now.
It does. It does. Hey, again, thank you so much for joining us here on the podcast. We got so much to talk about in regards to college football. At the time of this recording, just so happens that everyone's done with their conference championships games. And did you watch a couple of these games? What was your initial thoughts? With like the SEC's championship game and the Big Ten and the MAC. Well, what were your initial thoughts there?
There was a lot of good matchups. My favorite matchup was that Big Ten game. Ohio State's been on it all season, putting up big numbers, scoring a ton of points, and doing it. And Indiana came in and put in some work and showed them, hey, we're not here to mess around. Won the Big Ten. I think it's huge for the Hoosiers. Ohio State, you got to watch out for those teams with that kind of have that one loss at the end of the season. I bet they score 1,000 points in their next game. Like,
Oh yeah.
the chip on their shoulder kind of attitude, and that's how Ohio State handles football. So,
Certainly the Big Ten championship game was a game that I think everybody wished for, and they certainly gave us what we wanted. We wanted a great football game between two great programs, and certainly that's exactly what we got. It wasn't a very high-scoring game, but it was classic football, hard football on the gridiron, and that's what we love to see. I love that Ohio State did get their first loss in the championship game, because what does this do for Ohio State? It vamps up, it puts a fire underneath their ass, and that they're not going to lose another game for the rest of the year walking into the college playoffs now. They have that taste. That taste is so bitter to them. It's not going to happen again. You talk about probably like the perfect time to lose a football game. I think maybe in my opinion, that's the perfect time to lose a football game. The championship game, it stings, it sucks, it's the worst thing that can happen to you. But you know what? You're not going to let that happen again. And I don't think Ohio State's going to let it happen again.
and Ohio State kind of has a thing of, they lost to Michigan, and then they go win the national championship. So we'll see what comes of that. I think that was the biggest game of the weekend, definitely an upset, right?
Yeah.
But it's number 2 versus number 1, so it's not like a huge surprise. But Kurt Cignetti is my new favorite coach. I mean, I love Dan Lanning. There's a few other coaches out there that really just kind of stand out to me. Cignetti holds like this specific place in my heart that's just like, put your hand in the ground and do some dirty work and
Yep.
just do whatever it takes to get it done. He has that going on, and I hope he has a long career, but I also hope he stays at Indiana. I don't want
Well,
him
I
to be
think
the
he will.
guy.
I think he signed an extension with Indiana. I
Yeah.
think I want to say $9 million for the next 4 or 5 years or something like that. So they got him locked in at Indiana, and certainly I don't think Indiana wants to see him go either.
Right, but I don't want him to be the guy who is like, on his way to like an LSU or a USC type job. I want him to build his own program, make it what it needs to be, or
Yeah.
what every school expects their program to be, and then maintains that. That's way cooler than, moving up through the ranks and stepping stone here, stepping stone there, getting the job at USC, getting the job at Notre Dame, getting the job at Ohio State. I think there's way more respect in putting in the grind in one place and building a legacy there.
Well, you know what? I don't think, I think you're kind of talking a little bit now towards like about Lane Kiffin, right? He was with Ole Miss and then, he left and now he's with LSU. I don't see how that's not a wrong thing for a coach to do.
No, it's definitely not a bad path, but I feel
Yeah,
like it's common. Everyone has
it's
that
common
like
nowadays. It's
destination school that is, it's Penn State, it's Ohio State, it's Alabama, it's USC. No, do it with an Indiana or do it with, someone who doesn't already have that legacy of winning.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think with Lane, or I'm sorry, I think with Signetti, he's going to stay with Indiana because that's his program now, and he
Yeah.
wants to build it, and he wants to build that legacy at that school, and he's not going to be done until I feel like he accomplishes that goal, and that's the kind of coach that he is. That's the kind of guy that he is.
Yeah,
He's
absolutely.
definitely not chasing
Indiana.
money. He's not chasing money. He's not chasing the fame. He's not chasing anything. What he wants is wins for a program, and that's what he's aiming for.
And I don't remember exactly what the stat was. I don't know what level it goes to, but Indiana was like the losingest program ever or something.
Oh yeah,
And now they're on the national stage going into the college football playoff as the number one ranked team.
love it.
Unreal.
Absolutely
Unreal.
love it. So we talk about some coaches dropping the ball, not dropping the ball, but some upsets, right? One of the biggest upsets for conference championship weekend was the SEC game.
Oh, yeah.
Unbelievable upset, totally one-sided. And I know that you're a Bama fan, Roll Tide, and that's perfectly fine there, Blackburn. But certainly, what the hell happened to Alabama in the championship game? It's like their B team showed up.
Man, I am an Alabama fan. I've been an Alabama fan for a long time now. And yeah, like you said, I have mixed emotions because I'm also a fan of good football.
Mm-hmm.
Alabama football in the SEC championship was not good football. And, there's so many comments on, who gets into the playoff, who does this, who does that, and what the committee does. Alabama getting in based on that performance, I go with no.
There's a lot of questions being asked. There's a lot of head scratching with Alabama's loss to Georgia was the biggest one-sided game in the championship weekend, and they still went into the playoffs. There's a lot of questions being asked. Do they deserve being in the playoffs after a performance like that? How could the committee let them be in the playoffs? What's the reasoning behind it? I don't think there really is a good reason behind why Alabama went over Notre Dame. And, that kind of goes into really one of the first big topics that we wanted to talk about is Notre Dame. And some of the other teams are sitting out, but mainly Notre Dame did not make it in the playoffs. And there's so many questions about why this happened, how this happened. During the week leading up to it, there's a lot of talks about, well, these are the things that has to happen for Notre Dame to come in. It has to be a BYU loss, but also maybe another loss here that makes them look a little bit better. But the biggest one was the head-to-head matchup between Notre Dame and Miami, where Miami has the leg over because they won the game when they both played each other earlier in the year.
Right. And a lot of people, I've seen a ton of posts, a ton of videos, a lot of things that are Alabama held on to that number 9 spot. Well, did they hold on to it or did they fall and then work their way back to that 9 spot? If that makes sense. So if they were at the number 9 going in and then lost a few spots because of that, but then because of everyone else's wins and losses and whatever else they consider, Alabama works their way back to that number 9.
I don't know. I don't know if that's the situation.
Very different than holding a number 9. Now,
Right.
I don't believe they belong to be there. They don't deserve to be there.
Yeah.
But if that's the reason they are there, and whatever criteria they use for the playoff, and Alabama made that step to stay at number 9, it is what it is. And the Notre Dame situation is hot press right now. It's like number 1 with opting out of the playoff, opting out of any bowl game, opting out of everything college football related, pretty much, because
Yeah.
they didn't get in. All they had to do was one thing, and it was beat Miami.
So this is the
And
situation, and it kind of bugs a lot of people that when they played Miami, it was the first game of the year. It was a road game, the first road game of the year, and it was the first start for their starting quarterback. And certainly throughout the rest of the season, Notre Dame got better as a team as a whole. So how are you going to punish Notre Dame for their very first football game of the year when it ended up being again, Notre Dame and Miami head to head like that?
I agree to that, but also with those same kind of line items that you created there, Arch Manning's first game of the year, they lost to Ohio State, who was ranked number 3 at the time and has been number 1 ever since. It was Arch Manning's first start. He was at
Yeah,
an away
but they're not.
game. All that.
Yeah,
I mean, they're not in the conversation,
yeah,
but
they're yeah.
does that bring them into the conversation if you consider all those things? You know what I mean?
No, I think there's a lot more that goes into it. One is strength of schedule, and then there's point differentials on how big of a lead that they beat the other team, and all that kind of
Right.
stuff that kind of goes in. I don't, personal opinion, I don't think Notre Dame got they got the short end of the stick. They got screwed over pretty good, I think. And when we talk about, what team is going to give us good football during the college playoffs, I don't think it's going to be Miami. I think Miami started off strong and then they whimpered off very quickly towards the middle of the season, towards the end of the season, where Notre Dame, to me, it seems like they were just ramping up. Boom, 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 win after win after win. And they're really proving a point that they belong in the playoffs.
Yeah, and I mean we can go all day on who deserves to be in and who deserves not to be in and why they deserve to be there or why not or whatever. But how do you make this system better is a really valid question. And for me, it comes down to you have to have a series of questions that are yes or no. And you have to answer them for every team that you are considering. The other issue is the college football playoff was designed to give the teams who, at the time, I believe it was like UCF and BYU and teams that were having outstanding seasons but weren't in the SEC basically or the Big Ten, the
Hmm.
chance to get in. So where does it start for me? One, if you win your conference championship, you're in. I don't care what your record is. If
That would
you're
put Duke in. That would put Duke in
yeah,
over Miami for the ACC.
right. Now Miami had a better record if I recall correctly, but
They did. They
you
did.
won your conference. That's what it takes. But the issue is now we have too many teams in a conference. Not everybody plays everybody. So you have to make it cut and dry on who the conference champion is. Their wins need to be justified and their conference championship gets them in because that gets you out of UCF saying, "Hey, we deserve to be in because of our record." Okay, well, win your conference and you're in. That's good enough. Then after that, I don't even know what those questions are, but it has to be a series of yes or no, and if you hit a no, you're out, you know.
I think. I think the committee needs to take a couple lessons from themselves and learn from the past. There's situations that mimic this situation a couple years ago. Florida State University, the Seminoles won the ACC. They didn't make it in the playoffs. Everybody was blown their mind. Why didn't they make? They had an undefeated season that year. They
Yep.
didn't make the playoffs.
That's because
What is the reasoning? Why is the kid?
quarterback was hurt was the reasoning they came up with, which is absolute garbage because it
It's
takes 11
garbage.
players on each side of the ball.
So, like, that was a huge mistake by the committee that year. They're obviously not learning their lessons. So, I think what they need to do is to look back in the past, look back in history, and say we cannot repeat these things that we're doing to screwing these schools over. Another thing that I think that we can do, and this kind of gears directly towards Notre Dame, is I think this is another argument as to why their football team needs to join a conference. Think
100%.
think if they are able to join a conference and just legit dominate it, then there's no question that they're going to be making the playoffs. So maybe some of these questionable schools or whatever it may be, they just have to join the conference and just win it out. Basically, to what your first point was. And
Yeah,
then also, I don't want the committee to think games at the very beginning of the year. Look at the teams at what they are right now at this point in the season. Don't look
yeah.
at Notre Dame's team at the very beginning of the season, or how the quarterback played at the very beginning of the season, or how they look at what Notre Dame is right now as a team, and then evaluate it, and then make
I
your decision based on that.
I'm going to add on to that, and I'm going to say, look at what the team has become. So
Yes.
if you you have a loss in week 1 and then you win every game by 30 points after that or more, and you're talking in conference games, and you're just beating everybody basically, your team has become much more than what it was that week 1. And
Yes.
don't get me wrong, week 1's just as important as the last week, but it's about the development and making your team better and making the adjustments that you need to make to be better. Now, the entry for that, they have to make it cut and dry. When the BCS was around, there was all these analytics that decided which two teams played. And it was a computer. It wasn't even people.
Yeah.
And I mean, there was a committee, but it was a computer generated thing. And, that wasn't perfect because a lot of people got left out. A lot of teams who, could have had a amazing game got kind of put on the back burner because we're only doing 2. Now, I don't think we need to do that because we can create a system that puts in the 12 best teams and based on a questionnaire or something where you check boxes, yes or no or whatever. There has to be some criteria that's clean cut. That's my opinion on it.
I absolutely agree. I also think that, Notre Dame was one of the top 12 teams at the time that the committee was making these selections. Just put in the top 12 teams. That's all you have to do. Just whoever the top 12 teams are
Well,
then, just do that. Those are your top 12 teams.
well, if you put in the top 12 teams, how many SEC schools and how many Big Ten schools are you going to get?
That's a good point too. That's a
Yeah,
good point. It's going to
yeah,
just be pretty much lopsided. It'll be the Big Ten against the SEC, and every year. Yeah, that's a good point. Very good point.
yeah. And let's just jump to it. We'll talk about this first round. I got the
Yeah.
bracket pulled up here because I think it's a good point to be made following up what we just talked about. Ole Miss is in. Lane Kiffin left, who made their program what it is. And so now I don't know the guy's name, but the head coach is the first head coach at Ole Miss to lead them to a playoff. And
How about that?
he gets that
He gets that
credibility. Like,
credit. It's
wow,
not Lane
that's
Kiffin.
interesting. I mean, I feel like losing your head coach is a lot bigger than losing just your quarterback.
I don't know what the situation was when Lane Kiffin left Old Miss to go to LSU, but from my understanding, he wanted to stay with Old Miss until the very end and see Old Miss through the college playoffs. He knew that they were going to go through the college playoffs. He wanted to coach his boys, but for one reason or another, I don't know if it was LSU or if I don't know if it was Old Miss. They gave him the axe. They're not letting him do it. I can't think of a reason why Old Miss wouldn't want that. I
Well,
can't
I
think of a
think
reason why.
I think the issue there is because they're in conference because he went to
Who
LSU
cares?
in
That
the
doesn't
SEC.
matter.
No, you're not coaching your team. You're not coaching Ole Miss, our conference rival, to do better when you're coming to my program. Now, Tulane's coach is going to Florida, and he's still coaching Tulane.
It's
So,
because they're in two different conferences.
well,
That does
not to
make
put
that does.
down Tulane, they have a strong program, but Tulane's not Florida
I feel like there should
historically.
be a level of respect, right? You're taking on this guy, Lane Kiffin.
Yeah,
Give him the respect to let him finish out the rest of the season if he wishes. Some coaches they sign with they go to a new school. They say bye, see ya, good luck in your bowl games or whatever, and that's it. Lane Kiffin wanted to be with Ole Miss. He wanted to see these players finish out the season, and ultimately, I mean, Ole Miss kind of screwed themselves over because I don't know if they're going to be as successful without Lane Kiffin driving the bus.
yeah. Also, with respect to that, is Lane Kiffin goes to LSU. Some guys at LSU are going to be like, nah, I don't want to play for Lane Kiffin. I'm out. Some guys are going to transfer in, and he has to manage all that. Not
Yeah.
only that, he has to manage the incoming from high school, and he has to build his next team, which is it's a hot topic now of when all these dates fall, like National Signing Day and the transfer portal and all this other stuff. They have these dates that really intertwine with other things, and people are suggesting that they be moved, which I don't even know how to have that conversation. But it's the timeline's tight. So if you're going to
Yeah.
compete in the SEC next year, you're going to have to get ahead of the game a little bit, and maybe that's what he needed to do. Like
For LSU.
this guy, yeah, this guy coming from Tulane, he's going to have better players at Florida than he has at Tulane, no matter what. So
That's true.
he
That's true.
like, yeah, so he's going into a good situation and coming out of an even better situation. So, but Lane Kiffin's just kind of, I would say LSU, as far as football goes, is a stronger program historically. But
Hmm.
Ole Miss isn't just some team to write off any week you play them, you know? So his more entangled. And I would say that's why he had to commit one way or the other.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
But
Fair enough. So that's why Lane Kiffin's not going to be coaching Ole Miss during the college playoffs. They do play Tulane. It is December 20th. I don't. Where is this game even at? I want to say it is in New Orleans. I don't even know where the stadium is
December
at.
20th.
What? Hemingway Stadium. Couldn't you just give me a city, guys? Come on. The stadium in the University of Mississippi. Okay, so, Ole Miss's, backyard. So, I mean, obviously, I think I got to give the nod to Ole Miss, but, don't ever put out these teams who actually made the playoffs. There's a reason why they're in the brackets. There's a reason why they've made the college playoffs. It's because they're good. And, I know Tulane, I think they got a really good quarterback there. I've seen them play a couple times during the year, and, they're a team that can surprise people.
Yeah, for sure. And fun fact on that, Tulane was a part of the original SEC, and
Oh,
I think
cool.
that's so cool. Like, they're always kind of, not really in the conversation, but they always kind of hover around. And I think it's so fun that they have a chance to be the team, especially with their coach's situation, and that it. You just want that. You want that underdog to come in and make a statement and do their thing and be a big deal. And if this guy wins, it'll be the second time since Kalen DeBoer went to Alabama. So
Yeah. Uh, okay, so Tulane, Old Miss, one of the other big games. I said big games. I don't think is that big of a game, but Oregon, James Madison. Big nod to James Madison. They won their conference. I mean, what the hell? What kind of conference were they even in?
I couldn't tell you, but
I
let's
couldn't
talk
even
about
tell
the
you.
opportunity that is presented to James Madison University.
That's true.
You
That's
know,
true. The
they're
Dukes.
not hanging a banner at their stadium that says 2025 national champs
Yeah.
because they're not. That's what UCF did. They're actually playing for it. They're competing for it. They have that opportunity because of the new layout,
Yeah.
and I think that's awesome.
The Sun
Now,
Belt. The Sun Belt. That's who they play, or
yeah.
the
So if
conference
I'm
that they
putting
won.
my money down, I might throw $1 on James Madison because it's going to pay out if they win. But I'm probably gonna put it more on Oregon because I love Dan Lanning and the Ducks, historically.
Yeah, again, another December 20th game. This one is at Zun Stadium. Probably mispronouncing that, but again, that's in
Yeah,
Eugene, Oregon. The
home
Ducks
game for the
Stadium.
Ducks.
Yep. And I think the Ducks kind of started pretty strong in the season. They kind of slipped up a little bit. They slipped up a little bit when they had that one loss. I think it was against Ohio State, actually. No, against Indiana. But then they really never made a case for themselves. Kind of later on. I mean, they played. It was a close game between I remember Iowa. And the rest of the season really wasn't much to talk about for Oregon. I don't know what they could have done more this year to kind of build a better case for them as being one of the top contenders. What do you think about
I
that?
think they handled it well. Being in the Big Ten, they don't have the Big Ten schedule is not a week in week out schedule. It's you're going to have 4 games, 5 games that you have to win, and then you're probably going to win the rest of your conference games. If you're Oregon, if you're Ohio State or Michigan, but they you have to make that run at the end. The one where the final score is like 56-7 or 56-14 or whatever. And, Oregon managed that, which is what it comes down to, right? You have to play every week to get into the playoff. And that's exactly what they did.
Yeah, yeah. And then I just feel like this year Oregon has they've been in the talks, but they've been a little bit outside of the bubble. It's always been Ohio State, it's always been Ole Miss or Indiana, and then they're like, well, yeah, Oregon too. I feel like it's kind of been like that situation this year for Oregon. Going back to the bracket here, Texas Tech getting a bye with their win over BYU. Watching that conference game, BYU, I mean, that was their second loss to Texas Tech of the year, and that kind of solidified, their season and not making the playoffs. Texas Tech is a team that I think I'm rooting for this year.
They have a linebacker, and I don't know his name, but
Alex
they're
Rodriguez, I
fighting for
believe.
him to be in the Heisman running. And, I'm really like, man, I should have turned on more Texas Tech games this year because a lot of people don't push for that. It's going to be a quarterback. That's a
Yeah,
quarterback's.
quarterback, running back.
I hate that, but that's what it is. It's a quarterback's trophy, right? But when there's a defender that needs to be in the conversation publicly and across the college football nation, they're like, hey, look at this guy. I definitely missed out on that Texas Tech games. So
Yeah. One more big game, and then we'll talk about the school that you want to talk about. Miami, Texas A&M. I like Texas A&M. I love their quarterback Reed. I think he's a fantastic quarterback, a solid player. Miami again. They're sitting at the number 10 spot here, but I just don't see. Miami doesn't seem to have that fire in them. At this point in the season now than what they had earlier in the season. I'll be interested to see how Miami reacts to this Texas A&M team, um, which they're a fast team, and their
yeah,
quarterback's
and that
very
I
good.
love that about them. And they've been in the SEC for 10 or 12 years now and haven't really done much, from a football standpoint. And here's their opportunity to make something happen. Be who you say your program is, and really step up and do that. The things that the people before you couldn't. And I think it's special that they have this matchup because Miami needs to say, hey, we belong here because of everything with Notre Dame.
Yep.
So if this game isn't like, a 3 point differential at the end, someone didn't live up to their expectation.
Right. And then there's going to be even more noise in the stratosphere and the crazy internet world. Well, you guys picked Miami, and that was such a bust, and then they're going to give them even more crap. Let's talk about the game that I think might be actually the closest. This is the Alabama Oklahoma game, December 19th. Oklahoma started off really strong, looked great at the beginning of the year, then kind of had a couple iffy moments. Alabama, a little bit opposite. I don't know if they had such a strong start, but then they won a couple games. They looked really, really good, and then pushed themselves all the way into the SEC championship game. Who knows? Maybe the SEC championship game was a fluke for Alabama. Maybe they got a little scared of the limelight, of the spotlight, but I think it's going to be a close game between Oklahoma and Alabama. I can't give a nod between one or the other who I think is going to take this game.
Yeah, so earlier in the season, Alabama lost this game, and I hope they show up with a chip on their shoulder. But I love a head coach with a defense in mind, and that is not Kalen DeBoer. It's Venables. And this Oklahoma team, they're fast, they're good, they're strong. So I hope it's a good game. I hope my Tide comes out on top. But anything can happen, and it already has this season.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. And looking at here, the matchup predictor, it is pretty much split down 50-50. The game could go either way. You do have two really great quarterbacks in Simpson and Mateer. I'm a fan of Mateer. I love his swag. I love how he carries himself on the team, on the field. He's just confident. And then Baylock, their running back, is just a strong running back. I think it's going to be pretty much, it may be a game that determined on the line, within the trenches, I think that might be the determination of who's going to be taking this game.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's going to be down to the wire. It's Alabama's going to have to pull out everything because they've already lost this game. And how does that weigh on player by player? You never know. But together they need to make it work and do better than their last performance.
Yeah, no doubt. And that puts a lot of weight on players. Facing another team that you lost before, but it is hard to beat a team twice. So there is probably a little bit of edge to Alabama in that sense that they might get that win. So the four teams that have the bye: Texas Tech, Indiana, Georgia, and then of course Ohio State. Those games there would be the Orange Bowl, the Rose Bowl, the Sugar Bowl, and then the Cotton Bowl. I think at the very end, if I have to predict who's going to be, I think it's going to be another Indiana, Ohio State. At one point, Ohio State's going to be playing Georgia, most likely. Yeah, I mean, Kirby Smart just always finds a way to win. It's ridiculous how he always finds a way to win. So I don't know. I mean, maybe Indiana, Georgia, maybe Indiana, Ohio State. I think that's who we're going to see.
I would like to see in some fashion two defensive coaches line up with each other. So Georgia, Ohio State, maybe, or Oklahoma, Ohio State, or Oklahoma, Georgia, something of that nature. Because defensive coaches are, offensive coaches are, hey, we're going to outscore you,
Yeah,
right?
we're going to make
And
a flashy game and all
that
that.
doesn't necessarily make for good football. Defensive coaches are, hey, we're going to stop you from scoring. And then our offense is going to, kind of take their time with the ball, let our defense rest, get a break in, stretch, whatever they need. Then our defense is going to come back out and we're going to stop you again. So I feel like defensive head coaches are better at managing a game because
Yeah.
of that. And I love those matchups. So if we can get one of those, I'll be pretty happy.
Yeah, I think it might be that way. It might be the Indiana Ohio State. I mean, I think that's probably that might be the game that we see in the championship game. Who knows? Championship game, January 9:30. I got it marked down on my calendar.
I'll be
So we talked about a couple things already. We talked about, Notre Dame and some of the other teams that's sitting out. We talked about, we talked a little bit about it, but we're talking now. There's teams opting out of bowl games, and this we will transition to maybe two other topics here. But first topic is teams opting out of bowl games. When Notre Dame didn't get into the college playoffs, they were presented a bowl game. They opted out. They said, we're done playing. A lot of people are giving them flack about that. At the beginning of every game, they had this sign that says, play like a champion. Is not participating in a bowl game, playing like a champion. I mean, what do you think here, Blackburn?
I am not a fan of that, and I expect much higher of Marcus Freeman because of he is a good leader for the team. He is a very respectable figure outside of being a head coach, and I just don't understand where their logic lays that. Oh, we didn't make it into the big tournament. If that's me, I'm going to go beat whatever school you put me against by 90. Like, I'm just going to keep scoring points. Like, nothing against them, but I belong there. Why did you not put me in?
Yeah.
And, like, the goal for me going into my next game is 100-0 final score. Like, I'm telling this program or this committee that I belong there. You didn't put me there. What's up?
Yeah.
But also at the same time, you got to understand what the committee's trying to do to Notre Dame. They're going to make them commit to being in a conference. They're going to push them into everything else. Accept it. Like, what else? When Notre Dame is being considered for the playoff, it kind of makes the rules more relaxed because they don't play the championship weekend.
Yeah.
So is it fair that Notre Dame essentially gets a week off of football and everyone else gets another win or another loss so that it spreads the field and then Notre Dame's just kind of there? It's not favorable for anyone.
Yeah, and I like Notre Dame. I love Marcus Freeman. I think he's a hell of a coach, and I do like the program there. But there are a couple of things that I'm learning about Notre Dame that are kind of like raising my eyebrow. Like, what's really going on over there? One of the things that I learned is next year they got 3 away games. Syracuse.
Yeah.
I think North
Syracuse,
Carolina,
Clemson or something.
Clemson.
Yeah.
It's
It's
and then
3
everyone
away
is at home.
games that are not impressive.
Exactly. And that's
yeah.
and then I didn't even know that they could even write this into a contract. If they end up being a top 12 team next year, they're automatically into the championship or the college playoffs.
That's
That's to me that feels a little bit funny. But Notre Dame is not the only school that's not going into a bowl game. I mean, Kansas State is not going to a bowl game, and a couple other schools, and they got fined for not participating in these bowl games. Make that make sense to me, Blackburn.
and I saw the list of teams that opted out, within a day or so after Notre Dame did. And some of them it was kind of like you weren't even going to get a bowl game. So like opting out, whatever. But being a football program and saying no to playing football is a very bold move in my opinion on, trying to build a program that it's about the fans, especially in college. You only have players for at this point a year at a time. And, if you have a player stick around for 3 or 4 years, you must be doing something special.
Yeah.
And it's fan based. It's not player based as much as that. I don't like saying that, but that's exactly what it is. If you want your program to be funded, you have to focus on the fans.
Yeah. 100%. That some of the other teams notable Iowa State, Kansas State opting out, Auburn, Baylor, Rutgers, Temple. Those are some of the teams that you were saying, like, I think you guys weren't even going to make it into a bowl game. Florida State, UCF. I mean, these are the schools that decide they're not their season is already done when they had an opportunity to go into a bowl game and possibly come home with a trophy, possibly come home with with some hardware. But let's shift gears a little bit and talk about some of these bowl games. A couple games that I'm excited to see. One was, Central Michigan against Northwestern. I feel like this is a game that we typically don't see between these two teams. This is the game above Sports Bowl in Detroit, and then also Toledo, Louisville at the Bush's Boca Raton Bowl for baked beans, Blackburn, in Boca Raton, Florida. What are the games? What are the bowl games are you kind of excited to see?
And there's definitely a pretty good lineup here. There's a lot of teams that, are like, I'm looking at the Bad Boys Mowers Pinstripe Bowl. Penn State versus Clemson. Okay.
Yeah.
It's going to be a pretty good matchup, I think. I might turn that one on. There's whoever made these decisions honestly did a very good job on some real matchups. I like that one. I like Cincinnati's playing at Navy in the Liberty Bowl. That's a good matchup too. I think there are better matchups to be made, but that's going to be a really good game. I always enjoy an SEC Big Ten matchup. So Tennessee at Illinois, or Tennessee versus Illinois in the Music City Bowl. That's a good one. I mean, there's Michigan at Texas.
I like that.
Yeah. Now I wish it was not Michigan who just fired their coach.
Yeah.
In Texas, but it's still, that's two legendary names going against it. So
yeah, certainly. I think there's a couple games that are going to be excited to watch. Arizona State at Duke, or versus Duke at the Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl. Nebraska, Utah, Navy, Cincinnati, Arizona, SMU, and and probably one that I'll be tuning on, the Michigan Texas game. I think they did fairly well, with some of these bowl games, and try to create some excitement around them and give the fans what they want to see. Georgia Tech versus BYU in the Pop-Tarts Bowl.
I love the Pop-Tarts Bowl.
I think that'd be fun. Yeah.
I don't
Orlando,
know if you're
Florida.
a big gamer, but if you play the college football video game, you play in the Pop-Tart Bowl. They have the little Pop-Tart guys running around everywhere doing fun little things. It's recently been a pop culture thing, and I love that about that bowl game.
I love that. I love it. Well, Blackburn, thank you so much for joining me on this podcast. I really appreciate it. Again, I love hanging out with you for the hour that we get to spend, seeing you, and talking college football. I absolutely love it.
Man, there's nothing better. I'm telling you.
It's fun. It's unfortunately, we're kind of getting closer towards the end of the year. So, we only got a couple more podcasts together, until the big game, probably Indiana, Ohio State.
Okay. I can't even call it. All the teams, they're all strong competitors. So, man, I can't believe you just said that. What is this based in?
It's just all a crazy guess.
Just throwing out. Here, I'll throw out one. Let's see. I'm gonna go. I don't want to say it because it's gonna hurt me. Georgia and Indiana. I'm gonna say Georgia.
It might be that. It might be that too, and that might not be a match. That might be a matchup that I'll be interested in seeing too.
I'm
Smart's
interested
hard
in
to
all
beat.
of them.
I know.
Those are good teams.
I know.
Now,
I know.
I don't think it's going to be any of the teams that lost their coach, but yeah.
No, I don't think so either. But I think there's going to be a couple great games ahead of us. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Well, January 19th, mark the calendar.
Mark the calendars.
PM.
Yep. And we're going to be watching it.
That's probably a Monday. That's probably a freaking Monday.
Of course. Come on now. Think about it.
That's 100%.
Here. January 19th. It is a Monday.
Yeah, they do that, and I don't know why they do that.
Dude, it's because there's going to be nothing else on a Monday night, so they get the entire world, the entire United States watching the game. That's why.
Okay,
There's probably not even a Monday Night Football game on that.
It's
day.
the last game of college football. What's going to be going on that Saturday? Nothing.
Well, they probably got basketball. They got basketball.
Basketball's not important until March. I'm just saying.
You're right. It's true. It's true. It's true.
And you got that on recording, so you can use it against me.
Yeah. Well, thanks for listening to the podcast. Thanks for hanging out with me too. I appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I don't know how to get the name up or do this video. Blackburn, appreciate you as always. I can't wait to hang out with you again on the next episode. episode, and we'll see you guys there.